You've grunged it out to living in the 90s. You've sung along with your kids to Kids Bop. You turned it up to Freedom Rock. Now, get ready for the softer side of cybersecurity with Sunsets and Snowdrifts, including all your favorite hits, like Don't Go Breaking My Encryption. Don't go breaking my encryption. I can't fight this phishing anymore. And I can't fight this phishing anymore. We will patch you. We will patch you. I want to know who logged this. I want to know who logged this. And who could forget, how am I supposed to live without BCISO? How am I supposed to live without BCISO? And who came up with this amazing compilation of cybersecurity hits, you might ask? It's your podcast host, Senior Sunset and Mr. Snowdrift, Evan and Kennedy.
I'm Senior Sunset.
Yes.
Senior Sunset.
Senior Sunset.
That's me.
And those are all hits from my childhood. How about you guys?
Yeah.
I
I had a little more hairband, like White Snake, maybe Skid Row,
had some.
and then Beastie Boys. I mean, you know,
Of
right?
course.
I was kind of
I'm
more
always
metallic.
playing Beastie.
Well, those were the
yeah.
softer side of cybersecurity. So no,
Yeah,
wasn't
Metallica.
quite what we were, rocking back in the day.
I bought
Megadeth.
I just
Megadeth
bought
too.
5 tickets to Metallica here in Mexico City. In
Wow.
September.
That is amazing.
Anybody wants to
Well, that'd be
come? I already have the tickets spoken for, but if anybody wants to come, you can come.
I'll take 2.
That's the podcast contest of the day.
Seriously, Mike, do you want to come? I'll get you
No,
tickets.
no.
All right.
Jill would go though. Loves rock.
Well, isn't the guitarist or from the main guy from Megadeth? Didn't he used to be in Metallica or something?
That's correct.
They kicked him out, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Good to be here. Good to see you two, your beautiful beards and faces. Appreciate it. Today is going to be a fairly interesting, if not interesting, topic. We're going to be talking a bit about AI, which I know is your favorite subjects. One of your favorite subjects. Seems like everybody is top of mind with AI these days and all that kind of good stuff. So it seems topical, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. We're seeing tons of tools out there. Everybody's advertising AI in their offerings. So it'd be really interesting to get your guys' take on where is this thing going, what are we doing, all that kind of good stuff. And presenting La Luchador, I think is how you pronounce it. Evan Francine, there you go.
Yeah. If we're gonna talk about AI, I don't want you to see my face.
Yes, good
That's
job.
a good
I
idea.
think that's how AI looks.
This is AI. I am AI right now.
I am AI.
I'll go rap star.
Oh
I
yeah.
like it. Fun. So what's been going on in your guys' life? Anything new?
There's no snow here in Minnesota now.
Oh, no snow drifts, huh?
No snow drifts.
There's still sunsets here.
Absolutely. Yeah, just
Man, I'm ADHD, so I'm always. I was just talking this morning or before this meeting with John Herman, and I asked him how he got started in choir, and so now I did a whole bunch. I don't know. I got stuck doing a whole bunch of research on choirs. I don't know why.
like singing choirs.
Yeah.
Is he in a choir?
He was like he was in a choir, like one of the best choirs in the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
Didn't know that about John.
I think he went to school on a scholarship, a choir scholarship.
Wow, so rugby and choir, those are like quite opposing things.
That's why I asked him how he got, how'd you get involved in choir? And he told me. So I started something, and then I was doing some coding this morning, scraping all the data breach websites just to put it into a database, and then maybe integrate that with S2 vendor. I don't know. But
Yeah, I was working on PowerPoints. Yours sounds way more fun.
Mine? Mine
Yeah,
sounds fun. Oh,
Research
yeah.
inquires.
I was PowerPoint formatting, content, building a presentation for stuff.
I hate PowerPoint.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
that's a good segue. I mean, are you using any AI in any of that stuff? Because I think that's getting integrated these days, isn't it?
Yes, I was. I was.
I was not. I forget about using the LLM tools, and I don't know if I am fully on board with the AI as much. But I forget about it. I'm still old school. Just Google research, and it's the same thing. I mean, they built that AI pieces in their search responses. But
Yeah, I play with it at least daily, probably. Um, Depends on my mood. Depends on what I'm doing. If sometimes I like to argue with AI. Sometimes I like to see if I can get it to hallucinate. Sometimes, um, I guess the most useful thing I use it for is ideation.
yeah, creating
I might,
outlines. Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking of something and I'm like, I've got a couple of ideas around this topic, but maybe I want more. And so, I'll go to AI and it's usually got some pretty good ideas, at least things that I can, consider adding or, eliminate from what I'm working on.
So you're
So
finding it as a kind of like a good tool right now to help you with formulating ideas and putting things down and that sort of thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, I use AI, well, AI machine learning. We'll just use those synonymously. I'm using, your normal that everybody's using, that pretty much, Chat GPT and others, as an assistant, not as like I never take AI's word for anything, you know, but yeah, just ideation. I might get stuck on something. Might take, I've, the integration with what's Microsoft's one? I forget the name.
Copilot.
Copilot. Copilot's got a nice integration with some IDEs, and sometimes I'll use it for just help me debug code too. It's good for stuff like that.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
seems like that's a
as a
really good
tool.
thing. Yeah, tool
Yeah,
for.
as a tool to lay on. When you first kind of talk about it, though, is like ideation. To me, is it really AI, or is it just going out and searching everything that's out there and kind of feeding you back different ideas, um, or getting a group of people together in a room and talking about, I think it's speed, right? That's the big thing. You're able to go in and get speed to those ideas and try to kind of expand and expand and expand and tell me that in a different way. And I always like having it write haikus for me, write a cybersecurity haiku, and then I could send it around to the team internally. But I'm the same. I use it for the ideation. I start to get nervous about how it gets used for not debugging code so much, but like creating uh, uh, content or IP, right? If write me Python code for this. I don't know if I want that used. I want to be able to, help me understand Python code so I can write it for this, not just do it for me. Because now then, my solution or my use case now is public knowledge. And we've talked about this before. My risk tolerance is I sit more in the paranoia side versus the acceptance side. So um, that's where I usually sit at, and the ways that we've kind of ensured here at Astra, how it's utilized. So, but I
Can
do
you
the same thing. Ideation,
can you guys
blogs,
go
that type of
into
stuff.
that a little bit more? Like, how everything you input into it is, now available to the public, or it's some part of that AI? Because I mean, I know a lot of people don't understand that, and I've heard talkings out there like, oh, we have to create security policies around what we're putting into AI or if we're even using it at all. So I'd love to hear your take on, what exactly is that risk and that threat on that side of things, if you guys could jump in there.
Well, your interactions, your interactions are part of the learning.
Mhm.
So the things you type into it are part of what it's going to use, at least in the current iteration. It's going to use that information for its own learning. So, like in ChatGPT, if I ask something, maybe that I don't want other people to know, or I don't want it to be learned potentially by others, I wouldn't put things like that in anywhere, let alone, a GPT or
Right.
an AI interface, or machine learning interface. It just, like I just asked, ChatGPT what I should have for dinner tonight. And it told me how about a stir fry? I'm like, all right, give me a stir fry recipe. So, shit like that, right? It's innocent stuff. It's not critical thinking type of stuff, right? I wouldn't rely on it to tell me how to, spend my money or who I should vote for. Actually, I'll ask that right now.
Yeah, probably not a good one.
And then just
Yeah.
take it at its word.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
Oh, go ahead, Frank.
I was just gonna say, like, because I don't know if you heard, Mike, the last time we were at a conference, it seemed like, people were really jumping on this kind of bandwagon of shut it down, don't allow it in a company, that sort of thing. What is your take, Mike, on that? I mean, I know you definitely edge on the cautious side, but it seemed like that was kind of one of the things we were hearing a lot was like, don't even allow it. And is that the correct answer?
Oh, I think how does it go? I'm not the one to judge. These opinions are mine. The crazy guy with the
Yeah, of
beard.
course.
So I think banning it is a little extreme. I think having defining the use cases, the acceptable use policy around it, putting guardrails around how the organization uses it. Like Evan just said, proprietary data, personal information. No, because it's not a true AI. You wouldn't take, personal information about yourself and create a blog post and post it on your blog and then drive SEO marketing around that. So that's essentially what you're doing with these GPTs. You're going in and, how does Michael Kennedy work on his relationship with, Jill Kennedy and all these different things. And so then now that's all public information. If you use it from a generic, so we use it, especially like our marketing and some of the internal teams is around that ideation is like, okay, how do we create a podcast with a guy in Mexico and a guy in Minnesota, sunsets and snowdrifts? Or it's like, how do I write a presentation to communicate the value of our whatever? Where we get into it gets like Evan was talking about, where we get into is like, I want to build a firewall policy that blocks this IP address on these ports on this application ID. No, unless you're using random IPs and you're randomizing it to get the general idea, then you can customize it. So that's for us, that's the big thing. I think that's using the GPTs. What scares me from next is like the Copilot and the integration with Teams, the integration with Zoom, the integration with all these different tools that we just like, oh, it's AI, cool. It's a note taker. Let's flip it on. Well, did anybody get permission to have an AI note taker in this conversation? Yeah, there's laws around recording people. There's, and what is said on this call? Who's scrubbing it? It's not like on your file now. It's uploaded somewhere. Copilot, it's scrubbing all of your search history and behavior pattern or what you're working. It's essentially, is it a key logger? And
Yeah.
now all that stuff is in Microsoft that seems to have a security breach every once in a while. So
Yeah, those are
uh,
concerns. And I think from a competitive standpoint, that could be a concern, right? So if you have
yeah,
competitors who can in some way figure out how to access that information from notes and meetings that you were confidential or that sort of thing, obviously that can be a concern. What about the human side? So like as we use AI more and more to help us, do our jobs or people doing jobs, and you just mentioned it, like writing a firewall policy or something like that, right? So if you do that, how as a business owner, how can you make sure that the people that you're hiring and are doing the right stuff, right? They're doing their job the right way, and they're not utilizing a tool like that to essentially do their job for them, or is that okay? I mean, any thoughts, Evan, on any of
I
that?
mean, oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, the fact that of whether it's okay or not isn't for me to answer, right? I don't choose your risks, right? Michael just said, that he's a little more paranoid than I am, a little less maybe of a risk taker than I am. That's fine, right? We're both very successful in what it is that we do and everything. It depends on you. It depends on your risk appetite, right? It's just another tool. A firewall is just a tool. A hammer is just a tool. Every application you use on your computer, hopefully, is just a tool, right? So then it's responsible use of that tool and irresponsible use of that tool. That's what it comes down to. So you get to define what that is. What's not okay is, and what's clearly irresponsible is just to use it without understanding it, right? At that point, it's like a table saw. Table saw for a carpenter who's trained to use a table saw. It's a fantastic tool. You wouldn't give it to your toddler, right? That's a
Right. Yeah.
drastic example, but it's the same thing with AI. So if you're questioning what should I do with AI, number one, get educated, understand what it is, how the tool works, what I could leverage it for. If the things that AI can do for you are useful to you, well, then figure out how you would use it, right? And then make your rules for that. If it's not, if you don't see any use in using it, well, then, don't use it. So it's really that simple. There's lots of fear mongers out there. Don't use it or use it this way. At the end of the day, get educated yourself, play around with it. And then make your own determination of how you want to use it in your business. Because I think in lots of cases, even in its current iteration with ChatGPT, it's a legitimate business tool. And if you use it correctly in lots of circumstances, it can be a business differentiator.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do that? Why would I spend all this time doing something when I could use this tool, get it done in seconds, and then focus my team on other things that maybe require a little more critical thinking that the tool doesn't fit for.
Right.
Versus we just don't use ChatGPT at all. Well, what's probably going to happen is you'll become obsolete because other people are using it and they're putting you out of business.
Yeah.
We have some of our support team use it as well. They're asking questions, how to, we see something obscure, pop it in, and then they can figure it out a lot faster than escalating, trying to bring other people in. Your comment about the table,
Frank, I'm thinking about Secure Studio. Sorry, I just interrupted, but
yeah,
I haven't created the rules for us, and that's certainly something I should get on. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Brian's a big user, so whack him onto that.
Do you guys think that that the skill from our side as employees, the skill of being able to create prompts and use AI or chat GPT is going to be a skill like you put on your resume of being able to use Word or Excel or PowerPoint or any of these? Do you think it's just going to become that, just another thing that we need to all kind of understand and know? Think it's going to go there?
I think so. Because I have used ChatGPT in numerous cases, just writing, to write scripts for me. And one of the things that I've learned in using it is how clearly I need to communicate what it is I'm actually trying to do, which is
Right.
cool because a lot of times I'll just jump in and I'll take some of that stuff for granted, right? And why I'm doing something. So, when you're using, like something like ChatGPT and you talk prompts, right? Prompts are what you're typing in and asking, to have done. There's an art to it. And I think the better you get at communicating and what's the word? Building what it is you're trying to do mentally, the better the results you're going to get, from something like ChatGPT. So there's huge benefits, I think, for people too, but recognize, what it is and what it's there for. It's just a damn tool. It's not going to, it's
Yeah.
not going to, it's not going to, it's not going to replace the need for your own intelligence, right?
Right.
That's
Well, I guess
a waste of.
I mean, that's another concern, right? Obviously, is that people look at it from the losing jobs point of view. And I mean, an example here in California where I live, obviously they just raised the minimum wage to $20 for fast food workers. And inevitably what that has created is that if you go to a McDonald's, for instance, there's not a person at the counter any longer. You go up to the kiosk, you put in
Yep.
your order, and then at some point someone will put your food on the counter, but you can't go to an actual cash register. And now when you go through a drive-through, there's an AI that'll come up and ask you your order. So that concern seems real in a sense that obviously there's other factors that come into play there, which is economic factors and why companies are making those changes. But can it replace people? And it seems like we're still at an infancy, but it possibly could.
I mean, it's the same with, we were talking about this a little earlier, you and I, about, I mean, it's the same with the printing press. People used to write and then the printing press came out and now they could pump out newspapers like crazy. It was the same with, cars and the, Ford and getting the automating the building of the vehicles. It's the
Yeah, the
same,
robotics and things.
the
Well,
robotics,
even gas, right? Self-service, full service became self-service, and at some
right.
point,
I think
uh,
there's probably more of an outcry around not being able to have to wear your seatbelt when you drive and not being able to drink a beer when you drive back then. But yeah, so those things are that's kind of what, I don't know, evolution of technology for us as a society, is that this is the next thing, and there will be this little blip that will cause, but then there will be the upswing of the opportunities. And like you said, the robotics, um, the car manufacturers went robotics, but then they needed the people to work on those machines, and so it'll be similar. So
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah, I
just
agree.
take time.
yeah, and that's
And
what
for
we
people
were kind
that
of talking
value,
about, is like somebody who's good at prompting, right? That's another job
Correct.
potentially that you
Correct.
created. So one might have gone away, but one was created for
and
another
for people
reason.
that value that human interaction, of actually talking to a cashier and,
Right.
working with wait staff and everything like that, those will always exist, but, that's why you're seeing it more in the fast food area,
Right.
because most people don't value too much interacting socially with, fast food workers, for better
Yeah.
or worse.
Well, Target, Walmart, Amazon, right? I mean, you can go to Target and you can peruse and you can shop and you can buy stuff, or you can go to your phone, not talk to anybody, have AI prompt you all the stuff that you're supposed to buy, and just click a button and it shows up the next day. So same kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
agree, you know, my wife right now wants to get rotary dial phones in the house. She she's like, I'm like,
Really?
okay, I'm great. You got to teach the kids how to dial.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one knows how, right?
Well,
No,
and there's a whole bunch of people too that say, well, you're losing that social aspect, the human interaction piece. And that's only true if you let it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yes, you know, my human interaction with it was always surfacey anyway with, you know, at the fast food restaurant. Uh, it's not taking anything away from my quality time with my wife or my kids, you know. Um,
Right.
that's precious time. So if there was some way that AI was starting to, you know, inject itself into that with me, uh, I would have the choice and it would be a no.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually had a really good question come in, and I've seen it. My wife is a teacher, but it was like, what are your guys' thoughts on how AI is impacting our youth, right? So in school and writing, especially in writing, so in creating project work and creating essays and that sort of thing. It's a huge problem in higher education, as well as high school, especially. Um, but the ability for, and this is the same. I mean, I guess Google or anything else, the kids can go on now and get their questions answered. So it's just become this huge problem. But what does that do to society at that point? What does it do
It's
to our kids on how knowledgeable they are, or critical thinking
It's
skills, or those kind of
it's
things? I mean,
well, it's ease of use. I mean, we had the Book of Knowledge encyclopedias when I was a kid, and the 15 or 18 books, and I had to write a paper on something. And so I was flipping through the books, found a whole story on the paper I had to write about, showed it to my parents. They're like, "Oh, just copy it word for word, see what happens." Submitted it, got an A. It's the same type of thing. This is not new behavior or new. It's just a different tool that is now being used versus the Google or Encyclopedia Britannica or the Book of Knowledge, like when I was a kid. So the other side of it is that what I've seen it with my kids. Actually, my wife has seen it with her work too, where she doesn't listen to this, so it'll be okay. They wrote her a big thank you for she was moving to a different team. They wrote this whole thing around like, and they read it off, and they had a PowerPoint deck around it. She dropped it in that what ChatGPT validation tool to see if it was AI written, and it was 99% AI written. So, and my kids see that in school that the teachers are validating. They'll take some of their data, they'll drop it in there to see if they're using those tools. And if there's a percentage over, then, they have to go redo it. But it's the same thing with like when I was writing that when I was a kid.
yeah,
I
and
think,
that's where those
I think
additional
I think
skills come in,
I think
right?
I think our
yeah,
education system just in general is woefully behind on
yeah,
on the world. I mean, the world is what the world is, right? You have
yeah,
AI. So if our job is to educate our children to, be productive members of society as adults and be able to survive the world, why wouldn't I capitalize on using tools that I would use
Yeah,
as an adult? So, and it's not that you lose the ability to write. I mean, anybody who's using AI well is actually a really good writer because you have to eloquently communicate what it
correct.
is that you want
Yeah,
done,
yep,
right? So I think, for why would I instill into kids like, okay, you need to complete this essay instead of doing it the most efficient way possible, do it the manual way. It doesn't make a lot of sense,
yeah,
to do that. It's instead understand how AI works, prepare the children to use this additional tool for when they get out in the real world. I don't think they're going to lose the ability to, because all of that is critical thinking, right? So you're not
right.
losing critical thinking. You're
No,
not losing, you're still writing. You have to write the prompts. You still have to read what comes back. I mean, you still have to use discernment to understand, is this a valid answer to the question I asked? I mean, all those things. And I think all the time that's kind of being wasted by, teachers who are, prohibiting children from using this tool. Honestly, I think it's a disservice. You're kind of holding them back a little bit. I think teachers also, and it should be part of their own, curriculum in teaching teachers, right?
Yeah.
Here's the world today, because we see the same thing with information security. We see the same thing.
Yeah.
If you really want to prepare the children to be adults, they would understand responsible use of computers and iPhones and all this equipment, but they're not.
And
So
that's where those skills come into play on that other side of it, right? So the
Yep.
teachers have to essentially have tools in place and have policies in place that say you can only use 15% AI written or something. There has to be these rules in place that guide and that say this is what's allowed. Jumping back into the business side of things, it made me think, like, how do you guys think this is going to make this a lot harder to hire people? Because when everybody's using AI resumes or CVs and everybody's has these amazing written things and kind of differentiating people, that's going to be, seems like that would be more difficult, at least in the hiring phase. And I guess that's going to make it even more important to have those face to face and have those questions that you want answered correctly. But so many people used to just toss a resume based on its looks or based on the how that, but that all seems to go away. So what do you
Yeah,
guys think
based on
on hiring people and that sort of thing?
I think it depends
we've
what you're hiring for. If you're hiring for qualifications, then I think that has a bigger impact. But if you're hiring for what somebody can actually do for me, AI doesn't really affect it much, right? Because that's what I'm going to evaluate hiring you for. Can you actually do what I need you to do? So it maybe gets past that first hurdle, right? Instead of your resume going in the garbage pile, you get that first phone screen call, but
Mhm.
you'll get weeded out anyway if you can't do what we need you to do.
We've done interviews with people that have been placeholders for other people. So somebody applies and looks good, then comes to the interview, and then it turns out it's somebody else on first day. So so yes, for us, it's pretty important to, I agree with you from a qualifications, attractiveness of the resume, experience is going to be our first decider. But then when we get that, we have to do that visual, whether it's via Zoom or in-person conversation. And then, we typically grab a screenshot, and when that person starts, is it the same one? We've also had people that have applied to like 8 jobs and gotten, and so, gotten 6 of them, and they're trying to work all but you're going to run into that AI or no AI. It's kind of some of this remote work, piece that we're in now too. So
Yeah, it just speaks to the importance of really having your questions that you're going to ask people, and knowing what you're looking for, right? So as a
yep.
business owner or as a manager, what am I looking for? And I really am going to have those face to faces with people to really determine, is that a good employee?
Yeah. And key hires, we take referrals on. So, I mean, we're always going to do that. We want
Yeah, that makes
validation
a
in the
lot of sense.
industry. Yep.
Jumping into like products and vendor specific and software. We hear these buzzwords all the time, AI. But I don't think anybody is diving into what does that mean, or what does that mean from that vendor or that software specifically. What is the AI doing, right? Is that something we should be doing more of as MSPs, as business folks who are looking at different tools to help our business? Should we be finding out what is the AI in your software? What is it doing? Is that a valid
Yes.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally a valid question, because like I may know how AI works, but as you start putting layers between me and that, I need to know what those things are, because the waters just get more and more muddied, right? So you're vetting a product. Yeah, what are those layers? What's the logic that's going into before you, just like I would, put a prompt in to get something back from AI. The quality of what I get back from AI is going to be related to what I asked it. right? So your product might use AI and it might use a great AI back end, but if you're asking a whole bunch of shit out of the front end, it's useless to me, if not dangerous.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. I would vet how that integration works and what it looks like.
Well, and as we were talking about policies and how you're using AI in your own business, it's probably, and as I think about this, it's probably overlooked that you probably have software solutions and different connections into you that are using AI in some way. And if you're going to shut something down, you're probably going to have to look at all of that as well. Or, if you're looking at this as a policy across the board, you better be looking at the vendors as well, which is where vendor risk management obviously comes into play. But, with that, it seems like AI is probably needs an additional look, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, I think if you look at it with I mean, we always ask, where's your data? And how is your data used? And so that if you go with that mindset of still, like Evan was talking about with the AI, where's your data? I mentioned the Zoom AI. Okay, where are they storing it? Are they storing it in a server over in, the Mid East or, Europe or somewhere? Or is it a US based or is it, easily compromised? So,
Yeah, there's so many
yeah,
things that go into it, really. I mean, the worst enemy of information security always is complexity. So when you start adding more things to it, it makes it harder and harder to secure. So, from a product perspective, you've got all the logic and stuff with the front end stuff, and then that integration with AI. Like I said, if what I'm getting on the front end or whatever the product is doing for me, if it's based on responses or things that are coming from an AI and you're asking the wrong questions, well, then work it back through. I'm going to be getting the wrong results, right, on this product that I'm relying on to do something, and I want it to do it right. So you've got that whole flow there, and that doesn't even go into the AI itself, right?
yeah,
The bias that's built into AI. Every single AI everywhere ever will have bias because it's written by human beings. Every human being is biased. Even if you think you're not biased, you're probably one of the most biased. It's just that's how it works.
yeah,
And there's all of that, and then you have to think about availability as well, right? There's tons of lines of code that go into some of these systems, and if you know on average that there are 5 to 7 errors per 1,000 lines of code, do the math. There are errors, coded errors in the AI, and so then you have some people will say, well, just have AI fix the code errors. So you've got AI with code errors fixing AI with code errors. You know what I mean? You're just exacerbating the problem. Mathematically, it gets worse and worse. So keeping all those things in mind, and not to mention, I mean, ChatGPT, what, yesterday or the day before was down for 6 hours, something like that. So if I have this product, this thing that I'm relying on for my business, I've got to take all these things into account. I have to take into account the complexity. I have to take into account the crap that's going into AI that you're getting back from AI. I have to take into account the bias in AI. I have to take into account the bugs in AI. I have to take into account what if AI is not available? Will your tool still work? Or is my business down? You know what I mean? So it's not just as simple as, oh, it's using AI. Awesome, let's buy it. No, you actually
Yeah.
have more work to do in evaluating this than you had before without using AI, when you were just
right.
using a self-contained code,
You just went through the CIA triad: confidentiality,
I'm
integrity, and
telling you, man,
availability.
it's
That's
there's
right.
so much more to it. The biggest fear, I mean, I'm not a fear guy. People that know me, they have a saying that if you see me freak out, it's time to freak out, because it's just really, really hard to get me to freak out. But the one thing I we used to code things and we used to keep them pretty much contained. I mean, the ecosystem for the code was pretty close to us, but now we're using so many libraries where, from all these various sources, some of them open source, all these integrations everywhere, that it's really, really, and if there's a bug in any part of that ecosystem, it can tumble the whole flipping thing. Not to mention, oh man, it gets really, really complicated. So if your application or your thing is using AI, I'm like zero impressed.
Yeah.
We lose Frank.
Yeah, but look at his pretty picture.
And then,
So
you know, you need to move your servers to the cloud because it's going to be more secure. And now it's almost it's almost the opposite, right? The guys who have the servers on prem, it's almost more secure.
Ask Snowflake about that.
Right. So
Right.
interesting
Well,
stuff. But,
well, you talked about ChatGPT being down. You saw the other one, the Pliny, the prompter, enabled God mode on there last week or something. And so, I mean, you're going to have that, you know, w- we're always trying to get around stuff and make it do, that's going to constantly evolve, is how can we compromise and use something for a solution other than it was what it was made for. I mean, that's,
yeah.
that's how we define our hacker mentality. So,
Well, we talked a lot
we
about,
just have so much reliability in our technology. I mean, it's crazy
uh,
how many people, like if you took away their computers and their phones or took away power, how many of them would just, I mean, if you cut power to the United States, it'd burn.
oh yeah, forget it. Yeah. Yeah, I just went through 26 hours of no internet, and yeah, that was interesting. Can't say it was
that
no
sounds,
because I did have my cell phone, but my home internet was down.
that
And
sounds so
you know,
peaceful.
the amount of things that run on the internet in my home is pretty amazing, right? So like, but
And you brought up a good point though, too, about going back to that kid thing. We should always be asking, I think, it seems reasonable and it seems responsible to have contingency plans. What do I do if
Yeah.
it's not there? What, you
Right.
know, so I'm relying on AI on a regular basis to do my job. What do I do if it's gone? And
right,
so going back to the kids thing, I think in responsible use, teaching them AI, and yes, why not use AI to write your thesis? I mean, shit, it saves you a hell of a lot of time. It's probably better than what you would
Yeah.
have wrote yourself. But now let's assume it's gone. You don't have AI anymore because, you know, the power's out or, you know, it just went down, right? So I think having that responsible sort of, what if it's not their thing? Because what does like McDonald's do? I don't know. But you mentioned McDonald's. What do they do when those kiosks are down? Do they just close or I don't know that answer actually.
right.
No, they have somebody come out of the back, stands at one of the registers, and
Is that what they do?
yep.
That seems responsible. So kudos to McDonald's then, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about AI and the different software and what's built into those and those AIs. How do you guys think, or how do you know that the attackers, the threat actors, how are they using AI today to come at us, right? I mean, have you seen any of this? Do you know about any of this? What's from your perspective, how are they using AI to enhance what they do? Because I mean, obviously they should
Yes.
be.
Yes,
Yes.
they're better at
Yes, they are.
yes, they
They're
are.
better.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're better at
Anything that's
prompting.
come out that you guys know about that's you know,
They're better at prompting than you are. They spend a hell of a lot more time than you and I do on looking for vulnerabilities, trying to exploit the prompts, trying to figure out ways around, you know, controls that have been put in place to not let AI teach you how to create a bomb. Uh, you know, so they spend a hell of a lot more time on it from a different perspective. They want to leverage this tool. It's the same tool you're using, leverage this tool to take advantage of you when you want to leverage this tool for your advantage. So it's the same thing, you know, with others. So yes, I've seen a lot, I know a lot, but nothing novel like, oh my God, I never knew you could do that. If you were creative enough and kept playing with it enough, you'd see the same things.
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like if it, you know, again, going to vendor and software and, you know, hey, we're using AI to look at all of these potential people who are trying to jump into a network or trying to gain access. If we're doing it from this side, they're probably doing something similar on the other side, right? And using AI to try to find those holes and gaps and everything else. Um, so yeah, I mean, it would seem like that's, you know, that's a concern as well, that those same tools could be potentially used against us.
Well, and the crazy thing is too, is they're so much more motivated than you are, than we
Yeah.
are. I think we're off all, oh, another tool and blah, 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 and you just continue to use it. So if you just think that through, how could that be used against me? That's where they're going.
And that's how they make their money, right? So of course
Yep.
that's, yeah, so
Their job,
that's,
it's their job, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something. We had one of our listeners recommend a book called Total Power by Vince Flynn. So just want to throw that out there. So if anybody wants to check that out, I haven't read it yet, but definitely check that out.
Or you could just ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you.
Give us the summary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Where do you think all of this is going? Is this like, obviously Microsoft has their tool, Google has a tool, OpenAI has a tool. Who wins? Or are they all gonna be tools that we all use, or is there gonna be a clear winner at some point?
So the biggest, I've been asked many times over the years, what's the number one thing I can do to, to protect myself? Like the number one thing. And it's always situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention, look around, see what's going on. And to that end, you may have noticed that yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that the Department of Justice just essentially removed a hurdle to that. It appears as though they're going to be going after Microsoft, NVIDIA, and a few others, around antitrust, violation of antitrust laws. OpenAI, I think, is in there too. So, pay attention to what's going on. It's a good indication of what might be coming, right? So, especially if I'm using any of these tools as a critical part of my life, AI, if you wanted to know where AI is going, it's where technology itself is going. It's not just AI, it's technology just in general. You can only go so long using shit irresponsibly before there's going to be a really catastrophic result. That's just logic.
Yep.
And we've seen that happen in history. If you're a history person, maybe not with technology, but it's the same path. So AI or not, unless we start figuring out how to use things responsibly, define the rules for using things before you go and use them, it's going to be really, really, really bad.
This could have been a conversation that we had 10 years ago, and what you just said, and replace AI with, email, and then go 20 years ago and replace it with computer. So it's to your point, you're right. It's the technology that keeps kind of coming.
Yeah, it made me think of the Internet of Things, so every device that we plug into a network, that what kind of security does it have, right? Or who's it reporting to?
Yeah.
Where is that data going?
Where's your data?
I think the people that are in the best spot are the people who honestly realize that the fear of missing out is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
You're not missing out on a damn thing. What you're missing out on, all the time that you're spending in front of the computer prompting ChatGPT to do whatever the hell you're doing, what you're really missing out on are the things that really matter the most. Your wife, husband, spouse, whatever, your kids, your dogs, the nature. I mean, right?
The world around you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you want to buy the next new technology or things, I mean, man, it'd be nice if we could just get all of society to take this mental approach, because that's the easiest way to take advantage of you. Always. It's always, right? Take your attention off of the threat that's right in front of you. Oh shit, I don't want to miss out. And so you go run, and that's how Microsoft made billions and billions. Google, all big tech makes billions and billions and trillions of dollars because of everybody else's fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And same with AI. You're not, just take a step back, learn it, and then realize, how would I use this to improve my life responsibly? Right? Take baby steps, right? You don't have to have AI, automate everything in your damn house yet, right?
Right.
Get there, but yeah, it's just,
let it get
that's what we try to do as security people. Yeah. It hurts because as a security person, that's why we're here, right? We're here to protect people. this is a service industry. This is not a product industry. And so when you know what's coming, when you know that there are going to be just shitloads of people that are going to get taken advantage of and hurt here, it really, really sucks. I won't be one of them. I mean, I will ancillary, I guess, but I'm not that reliant on technology.
Yeah.
And I try to be responsible whenever I'm using it. It's going to suck for all the people that I, at the end of the day, I love that are going to get hurt.
Right. Family. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to throw it out there. We have a ton of listeners. You do have a questions tab there as well as a chat area. So if you have any questions around this subject matter or really any other, feel free to throw it in there. We'll take a few minutes to answer those if any come in. Also, I was thinking that Michael, you hit the nail on the head. The place to start with AI today is in marketing, content. And this is one of the areas that's really hard for a lot of businesses, especially small business owners, right? So creating content consistently, creating things that takes a level of creativity, which, frankly, a lot of us are technically minded, not creative per se, not from a creativity standpoint anyway. We're more logically wired, right? And
What are you trying to say about me, Frank? Come on.
hey, it's all of us,
I'm
man.
not,
Some of us,
yeah.
are just have more than others. But I think that's a really good area to start with AI and
I
to
design these
really
tattoos.
create consistency around that. Yeah, got tattoos for sure.
I design those. Creative.
Yeah, maybe have AI, design the next one.
No.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I don't know, man. Because the things, I guess that just piqued my interest on something. Because the reason why these tattoos mean what they mean is because they mean what they mean to me personally. It's a personal
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the creativity grew from that. Stuff like that you're never going to be able to replace with AI.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true.
Humanity.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it?
What? What'd
Humanity?
you
Is that
say?
what they call it?
Humanity. Yep.
Yeah.
What you were talking about, Frank, in the use of it, still when I try to use it, it doesn't use my voice. I have a very unique voice, or I guess, at least I think I do. The farm kid from Iowa who doesn't speak very well, not very educated. So trying to ask ChatGPT to write a post around, my feelings on mental health, or my, something that's coming up as in a business, or, whatever, I still have to go in and edit half of that.
Yeah.
Because, again, that, like Evan talked about, that bias, it's going to be the AI's bias. So
Yeah, but some of the hardest stuff is getting started, right? I mean, just
yeah,
even putting something down. So if you can use it to jumpstart you, even if you have to go in and change
yes,
every sentence almost, if it can give you a direction, then I feel
ideation,
like that's,
yep.
yeah, 90% of what people need sometimes. Um, and we know with marketing, it's just about consistency and doing things, over and over again. It may not have your voice, it may not have your voice specifically, it may not, but if we're talking about, information in general and less opinion, then I think it could be very valuable in that sense.
Yeah, when you can sprinkle in your opinion in through it as
Of
well as you
course,
go
yeah.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an area where I think folks can get started pretty quickly right away and use it to help their business right away. But any other areas you guys think that people should be using it today?
I would say learn it and get involved with because waiting for the federal government to start defining what the rules are from that perspective, right? From like, how can we stop it?
We'll be dead by then.
I know. So try to get educated, try to formulate an opinion on what responsible use of AI is. And it might be a shit opinion, but just like one so that you can start the discussion with other are intimidated to talk about something that they don't really know that well, overcome that and start talking about it. Start making it part of the discussion at school. Start making it part of the discussion, and not just like if the school says, well, we forbid the use of AI. Why? Question, why? Keep it going, because that's really the only way I think you're going to get larger numbers of people to not just get raked over the coals with AI. And for you personally, you have to educate, go to ChatGPT, type some things in, see what you get back as a response, type some more things in, see what you get back as a response. Try, once you start kind of getting just the normal sort of dialogue thing going with it, and ask it some yes, no questions. Simple yes, no questions, because those are the easiest questions to identify a bias. Because if I ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, or I ask you a yes, no question, there are only 3 unbiased responses to a yes, no question. Yes, no, I don't know. That's it. So when you ask ChatGPT yes, no questions, and it gives you whatever it gives you, recognize that all that other shit there, that's bias. That came from somewhere outside of the yes, no question, right? So get used to it. And then once you feel comfortable, start asking it to make things for you, simple things, right? So then you can start understanding the utility behind using AI, but don't just jump in head first and have AI do all this whatever for you. Don't buy shit because it's got AI behind it, because you don't even know what the hell AI is.
Right.
That would be my advice. Just go and use it, learn it. It's not going away.
I think
Yeah.
you should start coining the phrase IA, intelligent artifacts.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's an amazing and fantastic point, is like, just get educated now, because as MSPs, as IT companies, as cybersecurity consultants, as VCSOs, as MCSPs or MSSPs or whatever you are, your customers are going to be looking to you to have the answers, right? So the point there is become the expert. And even if you're not an expert, get enough knowledge to be able to have those conversations and, bring that information to your customers. I think that's really important aspect of all of this. So yeah, we're coming up on the top of the hour, guys. I don't really see much more as far as questions in here. Any closing remarks, any thoughts as we end this?
Look at this.
I like it. I know it can write a pretty darn good rap song.
And that's the thing, man. There's so many things it can do. And I think the parting thought is be responsible. And if you don't know what that means, go figure it out. And that's with AI, that's with everything, right? That's with your camera surveillance system at home, your cool new iPad that you just bought, everything. Be responsible. And you got to figure that out for what that is for yourself.
Yeah, I would echo that.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for jumping on today. I think this was a really fun subject. It's one you guys get asked ton all the time. And sometimes you gotta, even dive a little deeper. And I feel like we did into some of these areas and really uncovered a lot here. So really good stuff. Appreciate you guys every single day, and appreciate everybody who was on the call today. So thanks for joining us, and yeah, enjoy the sun in Minnesota and the sunsets in Mexico. So no drifts today.
No drifts.
Take care, you guys. Thank
Take
you.
care,
See ya.
guys. Bye.